Success comes from learning, and learning requires failures, which means success requires failures for both AI and organizations. Tolerating failures and learning from each iteration of trial and error is essential to radical innovation. Organizations will be much better served by measuring learning and tracking pattern recognition skills and false positive and false negative rates in the decisions they make instead of quarterly earnings if they want to win in the long term.
How many of you struggle every day between, I know I can do something more with my business, but oh, this is too much work, too much energy, well, I'm just going to do enough to get by and that will be okay with me for now. How many of you struggle with that every day? A lot of you, yes? What's keeping you held down is your fear. You might not actually recognize that as fear, but it's actually fear that's keeping you playing a small game. So I'm going to give you some tangible tools today that are neuroscience-based so that you can manage your fears and conquer them so that you can unleash your unlimited potential inside of you. This is a very important building block of the leadership training that I do for executives. Because my whole premise is that you cannot even think of leading anybody until you've mastered and you know how to manage yourself first. Having high morals and ethical standards. That is the key message that of my article that got published on Harvard Business Review. It's the number one thing people are looking for is safety, and how do you actually increase safety? Demonstrate high ethical and moral standards. When you do that, your people know the rules of the game that they need to play by. And the rules that you are playing by the same rules of the game. People can tolerate losing the game a lot more than they can tolerate not knowing the rules of the game. That's why demonstrating high morals and ethical standards is so important. The most important job of a leader is to create safety. To create safety among his people so that we don't have that stress responses all activating people, and then you know when there's a lot of politics and when you feel like your job's in danger, or when you feel like somebody else is going to take your credit, when you feel like your department is going to be downsized, or whatever, all these things are fear-inducing, stress-inducing. When that happens, you're not going to see a lot of collegiality. You're not going to see a lot of this, teamwork and helping each other out, and then I got your back type of behavior. You're not going to see a lot of that. When the environment is safe, then it's natural for them to engage with each other. Employee engagement, I know this is a huge deal in these days because there's so much research behind how important employee engagement is. It has to be, safety has to be a big component of employment engagement.
Over 280 million people around the world watched the historic match between Isidore, the reigning world champion of the ancient Chinese board game of Go, and AlphaGo, an artificial intelligence AI developed by Google. AlphaGo won. Go has long been viewed as the most challenging of classic games for AI because it's a very complex game. The number of configurations of a game is more than the number of atoms in the universe and requires intuition to win. Google's AI won using the following 5 principles. 1. AlphaGo uses the agents that learn everything themselves, not pre-programmed instructions. 2. It uses simple rules to reduce the search space. 3. It is an artificial general intelligence, a single system that can operate on a wide range of tasks. 4. It improves performance from the diversity of input from the millions of games it has played. And 5. It learns by many repeated trial and error experiments. Interestingly, the principles that helped AlphaGo beat Isidore are the same principles that Google and many other Silicon Valley tech giants use to spawn radical innovation. For example, Google lets employees spend 20% of their time working on projects of their choice, provides simple rules for employees to follow, favors generalists over specialists, seeks diversity of thought, and encourages learning from trial and error. These 5 principles can transform any organization into a powerhouse for radical innovation. These principles can turn any company into a powerhouse of radical innovation. Because radical innovation is a serendipitous result of many self-organizing employees learning from trial and error, following simple rules. These principles work because they are based on laws of nature governing all living organisms, including people and organizations. Part of what my global leadership research found was that when these leaders practice principles of radical innovation, they're also good bosses to work for. When our bosses don't micromanage us, but instead let us self-organize. When our bosses don't give us precise instructions on how to do our jobs, but instead give us broad boundaries of simple rules. When our bosses don't throw us under the bus at the slight sign of failure, but instead make it safe for us to learn from our mistakes in trial and error. They can be bosses whom we enjoy working for, and at the same time, who catalyze radical innovation. We can start the change by being the change. Everyone can use these principles of radical innovation and transform their organization or become a more effective leader. You can radically change the rules of the game and unleash the dragon in each of you. You all belong in the ocean. Thank you.